We're good. Good evening. I'd like to call the Clover Garden School June 13th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting to order. It's at 6:24 p.m. Ms. Barakin, role and mission of the board.
Role of the board, we are entrusted to care for the current school and stay focused on the vision for the future schools. No trust, no unity, no progress. Mission of Clover Garden School. Clover Garden School will foster community, generate enthusiasm, challenge students academically, and produce successful citizens.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to review tonight's agenda? Have a motion to approve this evening's agenda. Ms. Lane, second. Mr. Huffines, all in favor? Has everyone had a chance to review the May 9th, 2023 minutes? Any changes, updates to those minutes? Have a motion to approve the May 9th minutes. Ms. Russell, Ms. Foster, second. All in favor? Do we have any stakeholders, Ms. Barakin? Public comment?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Moves us to the finances. The May 2023 budget. Ms. Simmons, any comments? Information? Ms. Lane, have you approved or reviewed?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the May 2023 budget? Ms. Lane, second. Ms. Foster, all in favor? And then we have the 2023-2024 budget. Has everyone had a chance to review that?
So we need to table that until our next meeting, please.
Okay.
Just because the condensed version for the board members is not available yet. We should have that any day now.
Okay.
But our CPA firm was out of town when there's a particular tab that we provide to the board, and it somehow got missing from our Excel file.
Okay. So we will table that to our next meeting. Thank you. Academics, the student parent handbook, Ms. Barakin.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Feldman and Ms. Spencer, who've been working very hard with updates to our student experience book.
You want to start with code of conduct? Or you want to- Go ahead.
Okay, you said ladies first. All right, so good evening, everyone. I'll be providing some updates to the code of conduct. So the good news is that the content of our code of conduct isn't changing. We are basically proposing revisions to address the organization and structure of the current code of conduct. So that being said, the code of conduct revised is now going to be comprised of sections. Those sections include purpose, general information, some definitions, of course, the actual code of conduct, the disciplinary process, and long-term suspension, the exclusion procedure, and the discipline of students with disabilities. So all that's now all comprised within our code of conduct. Overall, again, the content remains the same. So the organizational structure is changed so that it promotes ease of use to the parents as well as us as well. We've had conversation at times where we're questioning one another, like, okay, what does that mean? So again, for ease of use to also reflect levels. And so you'll see, and it's uploaded in the shared drive where you have levels ranging from 1 through 5. And so you see a progression of the infractions and then the response to those in terms of the disciplinary measures. So, so that's that. It begins level 1 through 5. Level 1 being, of course, things that are being managed by the teachers in the classroom, all the way up to office managed there. Disciplinary measures also are now will match our power school codes. And so again, that was just something added. Mr. Feldman worked very hard to do that correlation for our reporting codes. Disciplinary measures also include a range of assignments in terms of what type of consequence the student can receive. Previously, it was pretty much out of school suspension. So we did include some restorative learning opportunities, things like lunch detention, conference with administrators, also referencing our cell phone and tardy policies, which you'll hear a little bit later from Mr. Feldman. In terms of our office managed measures, that begins at level 2. Level 2 is like the life of the school. That's where students are horseplay, those types of things. So within that level, we did make a designation for first through third offenses that will precede the office referral, and then it could ultimately end up in an out-of-school suspension or something of that nature. The disciplinary measures also include restorative learning opportunities. And so that just again provides students with an opportunity to grasp a better understanding of their impact to what happened, them understanding what happened, and then restoring that relationship. So, just if you can think of in terms of we're looking at the learning experience for the student as well as the school environment. Also reentry meetings, and that was a practice that we did begin this year with students if you were assigned an out-of-school suspension. And so that is a reentry meeting where the student and the parents or whoever else comes has a chance to meet with administrators. We are re-welcoming the student back into the environment, reviewing expectations and making sure that they're clear and understanding what's happening. Also, that's a time for us to see if any additional supports need to be put in place for the student. Typically, during our reentry meeting, also we'll have a phase of like a check-in where for the next 2 or so weeks, you're just making sure that the student is good and well received back into the environment. So again, still a part of that restorative process, and so it is now indicated as a requirement upon return from suspension. Let's see, with levels 3 and 5 in terms of the disciplinary measures. Of course, we know OSS is still there, again, the restorative learning opportunities, but also you'll find that there are some distinctions between elementary level students and then your middle and high school, just to be developmentally appropriate for students. And so we added that layer, so you will see that inserted there. And then this is one that is that we spent some time. Okay, so in our definitions, you'll find where it talks about suspensions, and as a part of suspension or the extension of suspension is the wording that the current handbook notes. So we've been able to talk about it. We've received a lot of parent input and feedback from the extension of the suspension. So right now, we're proposing that, and let me just say the extension of the suspension is that if you are suspended, a student, in addition to the suspension for a 30-day time period, they would be ineligible to participate in any other extracurricular activities. And so we are asking that it is to be extended if the student is suspended 2 or more times and not the first time. So we are proposing that 30-day probationary period to be after multiple suspensions. And so that was not, I just have to say, I experienced it a lot in the elementary world, where students are detached from even what happened. They don't even know or understand and not really making the connection as to why here we are 3 weeks later and I can't go to a dance or something. And so we had a lot of conversation as well as with parents, just in terms of being, again, developmentally appropriate and helping them to stay connected to, so this was the infraction, and then, so these are the consequences. So that was one that, we had.
If I could jump in real quick too, the discipline data demonstrates that many of our students, the great majority, were suspended just one time. And so we felt like that was, in a sense, almost double jeopardy to, have that string out 30 days where maybe they're missing a field trip or something like that. So we felt like their lesson was learned through the suspension and didn't need to be carried out in that calendar month.
Very much. So that was a very soft spot for me. And then also in considering our wireless communication and electronic devices, so that policy isn't changing, but what we did, we added a continuum of consequences. We found where we weren't really having a lot of issues necessarily within the classroom, which last year we brought that back into play where they could utilize their cell phones during lunch, during class changes and things of that nature. However, we didn't necessarily equip the teachers with, okay, so what happens if this happens, So we did add a continuum of consequences to help maintain consistency. And that also is for offenses 4, again, still starting with that teacher warning, and it just kind of goes up right on to eventually office referral. So the first infraction, teacher warning, they would document. Second time, the device is confiscated until the end of the class period, and of course, the parent is contacted. The device then on the third infraction can be confiscated until the end of the day. And at that point, the parent needs to come and get it, because again, we are talking about a disruption to the educational setting there. And then, of course, if it happens that fourth time, it's the office referral, and then we take it from there with administrative measures in that regard. So,
I can talk to the tardy policy if you wanted to, since we're talking code of conduct.
thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Best.
Just as a side note too, I dropped the paperwork that I'm reading off of into the today's folder in your board drive, if you want to check that out now or later. One of the main changes to the tardy policy as written is that we would like for tardy reports to be completed once weekly by an office manager. So there'd be a report run in Power School, and that would be distributed to myself and other administrators that would need to do that data. The way it was written previously, teachers were responsible for keeping up with late arrival to school. And unfortunately, that created some inconsistencies, and not every student and family was being equitably entertained, if that makes sense. So we're trying to fix that process a little bit. One other change in the continuum of consequences, as Mrs. Spencer referred to it as, is that we're giving families a little bit of a longer leash, in the sense that it used to be after 6 tardies, we would have an administrative conference. We're extending that to 8. Tardies will continue to reset at the end of semester. So you wouldn't get into hot water, so to speak, unless you were tardy more than once every 2 weeks on average. And the way that looks a little bit different in the consequences is that instead of tardies 1 through 3 being a phone call home to parents, beginning with the 4th one, there would be a lunch and learn process, emphasizing the learn part. So this is not just peer isolation, but an ability to work with a teacher, get some tutoring, and make use of that time that you're away from your friends at the lunch table. At tardy 6 and 7, we're then going to assign the after-school remediation, which again is in alignment with what the high school and middle school was doing last year. For the most part, except again, that was at tardies 4 and 5. So a little bit, longer leash, as I stated. And then lastly, I think probably the most notable change is if students and families do reach 8 tardies in a semester, we're going to meet as an administration with those parties, put together an action plan to improve it. Be very intentional about writing up a series of steps that family can take to remedy the situation. And the consequences at that point would remain the same as currently stated in the policy. The only thing that we're taking out is that beyond that action plan, we will not resort to giving students out of school suspension for late arrival to school. We think that's highly contradictory to what we're here to do. We'd rather they be here late than not at all. So, that's kind of where we're landing on it.
Just a question. You said conference for 8.
After the 8th one, yeah.
So
Okay, right, because right now you're still showing 10 at the beginning.
I'm sorry, are we looking at the tardy policy?
Attendance and tardies. The one that's in our folder.
Are you looking at the one that looks like this with the table in front?
That's at the end, right? I was just
Yeah.
looking at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where it says conference for the school administrator will be scheduled following 10
So that's 10 unexcused absences to school, not late arrival to school.
Not a,
Not
re-
late
it's
arrival.
Two
absence.
different
Yeah.
Gotcha.
areas, yeah.
Like you clarify.
But regarding attendance and tardies and the way that policy is written, I want to highlight just a couple of proposed revisions as well. One is field trip eligibility. As Mrs. Spencer said, extracurriculars, field trips became a somewhat contested area this year for whatever reason. I think it's because field trips reemerged as something we're doing around here, and nobody wanted to miss them because they were on hiatus for a couple of years, which I completely understand. But we did do grade checks and have to keep some students, off of the bus on those days. One additional measure that the attendance committee is proposing is that students who are not in good attendance also not have that opportunity. And their threshold was 5 or more unexcused absences in 1 quarter. So it would reset every quarter, therefore it wouldn't matter how many times a student, missed for an unexcused absence up to quarter 4, if indeed that's when the field trip is, say it's in April. We're really looking at that quarter that the trip is occurring as the measure. In terms of excessive absences, the committee is proposing that we no longer require students to make up seat time because the state did away with that years ago now. So that kind of brings us up to speed. But instead of that, what we would do is focus on the number of unexcused absences, which is in alignment with the North Carolina compulsory attendance law. And that specifies, as Mr. Huffine said, if you exceed 10 unexcused absences, you are in violation of state law. And so we're going to use that as our measuring stick. For semester-long courses, 10 would be the number. For year-long courses, 20 would be the number, just for consistency's sake. And that's absences for any reason. If indeed a student reaches that threshold, then we're going to give them a failure due to attendance in Power School and give the parent and guardian the opportunity to request an attendance appeal with an attendance appeals committee to be determined. So they would just, parents, families would come in with their documentation and provide it to the committee for review. And, depending on the circumstances, whatever they may be, the attendance committee can, grant them, a waiver for that, no harm, no foul, and they can earn their grade just as they would have. So it would be taken on a case-by-case basis. Think of it as a court of law, right?
That's right.
That's all we got.
I will say that, thank you to Mr. Goodman and Ms. Spencer. They spent quite a fair share of their time with discipline, and that's a big piece of our charter. That is a piece of, with our honor code and code of conduct type thing. So legal has put their blessings on these amendments as well. They have spent a lot of time, again, drafting up, just kind of getting us updated and again, more consistency across the board when it comes to our code of conduct, disciplinary actions, as well as trying to improve our attendance and tardy policies, making sure that, again, attendance is important to our families. So.
Just as a side note too, our attendance is not bad. I mean, we're at 95% and up
Right.
for the year. It's, I think where we see the struggle and just big picture looking at how do we improve our school performance, report cards and things like that.
Yeah.
We've got to lift up those that are
That
standing
5%.
out
Right.
for the wrong reasons in terms of attendance and make sure that they're here to receive instruction. So we hope that these policies will help curb some of the flagrant violations. But by and large, attendance, again, I would say we're an A, right? 95 and up is great.
Yeah. That is good.
For tardies, are you removing the out-of-school suspension just for elementary or for middle and high school as well?
K-12. Across the board.
K-12, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman, Ms. Spencer. Appreciate the hard work on that. Okay, has everyone had a chance to review those documents? Any questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the updates and changes to the student parent handbook? Mr. Huffines, Ms. Foster, second. All in favor? Thank you. There's no old business. Moving on to governance and our committees. I think the first one is governance, and we have the bylaws. I know that we discussed those on Saturday, put them on the Google Drive. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? questions, things that we want to discuss?
So just a point, so for the executive officers, all of them only require a majority vote, except for the secretary, which is requiring a 2/3 vote of the board. And so I just think we should make it to where all executive officers are consistent on how we would remove them if that came up.
Okay, so majority vote for all.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And then the only other thing was a small like formatting. There is no, on the very last page, section 8, there's no title in bold for that section.
Oh, okay.
It's a very small formatting thing when there's a title for every other section in the bylaws.
Did you get those, Ms. Simmons? Or you, okay, I heard her typing back there. I thought, okay. I didn't want to assume.
I'm trying to put it on the comments on the Google.
Okay.
form For us,
Okay,
and then to have backup with Ms. Jackson's minutes as well, just in case I missed something.
okay, perfect.
Okay, and I just found a few little things. I know that some of the wording had been changed. And a couple of them are just, I think, like grammatical or typo type things. But I'm just going to give you where we need to substitute a word. In Article 7, Section 2, I think we have changed president to chairperson. So that, I would think for consistency's sake, that needs to be changed.
Yes,
On
I think we
there.
caught that earlier.
And there again, that same thing on Article 5, Section 1, again, instead of president, chairperson. Same thing on Section 9, chairperson instead of president and vice president.
Those were
There's been
updated
change.
on the Google.
Okay,
Doc.
Yeah.
Yes,
so they
done
were.
about 2
Yeah.
o'clock.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Ms. Lynn.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah, those were the main
Same
things that
one.
I saw.
Yeah, you grabbed it, yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Russell, do you see anything? Do you have any concerns over
Same issues that they have.
that? Okay. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the bylaws along with the changes, as we discussed today? Mr. Huffine, second. Ms. Lane, all in favor? Finance Committee, any updates?
No, we should have the final budget any day now for
Okay.
approval before the end of the month
So we'll do a meeting to be able to review that and,
and other things.
okay. Okay, Academic Committee, Ms. Lane, or Ms. Foster, I'm sorry.
Nothing to report tonight.
Okay.
Still waiting on test results and so forth to come back in.
Okay, perfect. And then Long Range Planning Committee, Mr. Huffines.
So yeah, we're still making a lot of progress on the expansion project. We're about 80% complete. Just the only big news I want to share is our MDP panel news. You know, that one's been delayed to October, late October. So this this week we heard that there's a chance that it could come in early, late July. So we're hoping move-in date could be late October, early November, assuming the MDP panel comes in around the late July. So still working on sprinkler house, fire sprinkler house, well house, the septic treatment system. They started adding more stone to the parking lot this week. Anticipate them paving sometime in July. Drywall should be started installation around first week of July. So all's good right now.
It's looking good.
Yeah.
It's good news about the MDP panel.
Absolutely.
Okay, any questions? Then fundraising, Ms. Verraken, do we have any updates on that? Okay, moving on to new business. So we already discussed the bylaws and voted on that. And then policy and procedures. Ms. Simmons?
policy and procedures is not on the agenda.
Board policy school rates is the next one.
That's moved to the 27th.
Okay, it may just not be up to date, the one I'm looking at. Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so board policy
School
and
rates.
school rates.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. For the audit that we had last week, there was a new policy, a new board policy that we need to incorporate into our policies and procedures. And basically, it is stating that Clover Garden School, Inc. will not charge rates above our LEA rates,
Okay.
which is our local education agency. It's just a one-line blurb that we need to have in there. It's been an unspoken rule, all these years, but now they're enforcing to make sure that we have it in a policy. So per the auditor, as long as we get it in and get it voted in, then we're good for this year. So that's what I proposed. And that is just, like I said, that document's out there. It's just a one
Yeah.
simple one
One
sentence.
sentence.
Don't know if anybody has any questions or anything.
Anyone have a question on that policy? Do I have a motion to approve the board policy regarding school rates as proposed? Ms. Russell, second. Ms. Lane, all in favor? And then the retention bonus policy amendment?
Yes, so this is the bonus plan for our staff, and we needed to add some verbiage into the bonus plan for the mid-year hires. And so you'll see highlighted in yellow there, if they are hired prior to December 31st, their years of service will be credited for that entire year back to the beginning of the school year, which is normally on July 1st. And if they're hired after December 31st, they will not get credit for that school year when we're looking at their years of service and what percentage of their annual base salary we are basing their retention bonus on. Just a point of clarification that we wanted to make when we are looking at these, because we've had a few instances where they went up to the next level with this change in policy.
That's a change, yeah.
So,
So that can impact. Is that the only change?
yes. The 11 plus years is highlighted.
What was it before that?
It was what?
Was it
The-
10?
It was-
It said, yes, sir. It was, it said 6 to 10 and then 10 plus.
10 plus?
Yeah, so I just changed it to 11.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Just to clarify that.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
it's a
you.
good
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
of clarification. Thank you.
okay.
So all the percentages stayed the same. And overall, we are paying out, it was about $10,000 to $11,000 for, I think that's something around there. 4,000, okay. So I mean, it's resulting in higher bonuses for our staff
Okay,
overall.
no, makes sense. And I know we had a few mid-year hires this year. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the updated mid-year verbiage and years, 11 plus years on the retention bonus policy? Ms. Foster, second. Mr. Huffines, all in favor? Okay, do we have any other items for open session? Any other items? Okay, do I have a motion to move into closed session under General Statute 143-18.11A15? Ms. Lane, second. Ms. Russell, all in favor? Please note, we've moved into closed session at